got a really good feeling about this.
Not having the yellow text opening crawl is the new black. But still reading.
Oh, stop it, Jeremy. If you've seen my prequel videos, you know that I've sinned you for hating on the opening crawl, so cut the bullcrap with that first sin.
How omniscient are these opening titles supposed to be? Normally they're essentially biographical, telling us about the status of the rebellion or the fine details of trade agreements and their impact on intergalactic legislation. But this shit's telling us what's in the heart and mind of Han f***ing Solo. I don't think even Han knows what's really in the heart and mind of Han Solo in this movie.
That's because this isn't your traditional Star Wars movie. Like Rogue One, this is a spin-off anthology film that tells its own story. That's why there's no opening crawl, so therefore it has free liberty to do more of its own thing. Honestly, I'm sad that this movie bombed because I would have been perfectly fine getting more of these instead of more Disney Plus shows with super small budgets, or I guess some with really big budgets but still somehow look cheap.
Adding a Star Wars story to the end of this film's title is really infuriating. Like, we need to know that Han Solo is part of the Star Wars universe. Or maybe they were concerned about being confused as a reboot for that Mario Van Peebles Cyborg movie.
Jeremy, imagine if this movie was just called Solo. Yes, Han Solo is a fan favorite character, but I seriously doubt people would immediately jump to, this is a Star Wars movie, if it was just called that.
Dice. The dice that have been so goddamn important to all the movies up until now.
I would have agreed with you if you were talking about the original 6 films, but you've already seen The Last Jedi, which came out before this movie. We saw the dice very briefly in that film, with Luke taking it and giving it to Leia, although I guess since he wasn't really there, that was fake, but whatever. Like, I know we all want to ignore that film's existence, but it's canon, so we're gonna have to deal with it.
This is worth
500-600 credits. That's more than you said we'd need.
to buy our way out of the control zone and off Corellia.
You guys are just reminding each other of you both already know. Expositional aspiration. Exasperation?
Don't you always do that whenever you point things out on the screen?
Premature celebration.
They're celebrating their escape from Lady Proxima, which does help in their escape off this planet.
Thought we'd get a little more of a head start.
Yeah, what's up with that? Dude left well after Han, and it's not like they've been puttering along toward the airport. Not to mention he knew exactly where they were going. Sure, it makes sense that they'd make a run for the launch pad, but what if they decided to lay low for a few days?
No, you just answered your own question. Obviously they were heading to the launch pad. I don't think it makes sense for them to just lay low, especially since they'd inevitably get caught.
Solo, a Tokyo Drift story.
Arbitrary movie reference.
Did I hear Wilhelm in there? I'm almost positive I did. So does that make it a Han helm? A Wilhelm?
Seriously? You've seen the Wilhelm scream every chance you get. How did you get it mixed up with that? At least it's not as bad as my very first Everything Wrong With video.
Sold to Crimson Dawn or the Hutt Cartel.
That's not gonna happen. I won't let it.
Character says he won't allow something to happen immediately before allowing that exact thing to happen cliche.
Immediately? Kira gets captured by Lady Proxima's people. Crimson Dawn recruits her sometime in the next 3 years.
Han palming the dice to the Targaryen here 100% foretells that she's coming back before the movie ends, because I saw The Last Jedi, goddammit.
Okay, and there you are, admitting that you've seen The Last Jedi, which makes that sin look even worse.
Also, here's another sin for The Last Jedi, just because I can.
Can you stop pandering? Even as someone who hates that movie, I think you're trying too hard with this sin.
Join the Empire, learn valuable skills.
Convenient recruitment center is massively convenient.
The Force works in mysterious ways.
What? Who are your people?
I'm alone.
Solo.
Give me a goddamn f***ing break.
Agreed.
I'll take this mouthy scooch and we'll go around to the right.
Mouthy Scooch is all of the following: a hilarious insult, a Canadian nickname for a yappy dog, a popular spicy Albanian cola drink, and the name of my new R-rated ska revival band.
Jeremy says something random cliche.
In 3 hours, we move out for the southern marshlands.
Besides the introduction of Beckett, what does any of this bring to the table? Do we really need several scenes of war footage and strategy speeches?
You just said it. It's to introduce Hamish Abernathy. But it's not just that. It's also supposed to show us Han's rebellious attitude, which is shown in the scene when he objects to the Empire's ideas of killing innocent people. This shows us he had a heart even this early on in his life, foreshadowing his future of fighting back against them.
I'll do whatever it takes to get back to Corellia. I've already been away too long.
It's been 3 years though, right? If Han's this intent on going AWOL from the Empire, is this movie telling me he really hasn't had a chance before now?
Yes.
Heaven's
fed him in 3 days.
Should be fun.
So up until now, Chewie was just eating all his cellmates? That is dark, little Ronnie Howard, dark.
And so is the Empire blowing up planets and killing millions of people, but I don't remember you sending that.
Han survives this. Also, they make it sound like Chewie's a ravenous badass, and of course, we know he can rip a fool's arms off if he wants. So why all this playing with his food? He hasn't eaten in 3 days. Han should be all the dead right now.
Again, you just said it. He hasn't eaten in 3 days. He's clearly angry right now.
I guess it's kind of funny that Han already speaks Wookiee, but it sure does create an easy escape for both of them that is uber convenient.
The Force works in mysterious ways.
Thanks for helping me get out of there.
Nice sentiment and all, but is this the first chance they've had to have this conversation? They've made it all the way to another planet, and they just shared a shower together. That's a perfect place to chat.
Jeremy thinks a shower is the perfect time to chat. You know what? After all the weird and dumb things this guy has said, this doesn't sound that strange coming from him.
Chewbacca? Alright, well, you're gonna need a nickname, because I ain't saying that every time.
Har har har. This movie could have been great if you'd spent less time paying so much lip service to the films that came before it. A nod here, a hand job there. It gets to be obvious to the viewer, and therefore less enjoyable. You might as well have him turn to the camera and tell the audience, "You love me? I know!"
Are you seriously telling me you went into a movie about Han Solo's origin story and didn't expect this kind of scene? Actually, I think it's more than likely an exchange like this happened. This doesn't feel like fan service as much as it feels like showing us what went down. That's like saying Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting during the Clone Wars is fan service. Like, we kind of knew that happened.
Our whole future depends on this one school, and you bring in amateurs.
Gotta side with Val here. Why would Beckett bring in amateurs for their one final score? This is like Danny Ocean bringing the actual Bruce Willis into their heist in Ocean's 12.
Beckett literally just said after this that they were a little short-handed. But more than that, when they were leaving, Rio pointed out that having a Wookiee on the team would be super useful. There's a reason the Empire had them as slaves, because of their incredible strength.
I waited a long time for a shot like this. I'm not about to screw it up.
You know, I bet Han's palms are sweaty right now. His knees must also be weak, since he's sitting. Those arms definitely look heavy. And what's that on his sweater? Mom spaghetti?
What the hell was that? Have you ever tried to disinvite a Wookiee to anything? Not a good idea.
Damn it, Rio is one of the most fun characters in this movie, and I'm sending the out of it for killing his ass way too early.
Jeremy sends something he likes cliche.
Tell us about the girl, Han. Is she nice? Does she have sharp teeth?
Man, Jon Favreau is discount Steve Buscemiing so hard here, I literally had to check IMDb 3 times to make certain it was Jon Favreau and not Steve Buscemi.
The third sin in a row that doesn't sound like a sin to me. How much time is left in this video?
Huh, what do you know? White men can jump.
Arbitrary movie reference.
Why does it take 3 individuals to do the on the train? They're essentially just tying some cables down, but no one wants to help Val with the much more dangerous part of the mission? I'm just saying, if they didn't have Chewie and Han, this would have probably gone much smoother.
You sure about that? What about when Memphis Nest and her gang arrive and kill Rio? Who would have piloted the ship then?
Coaxium! Enough to power a fleet!
Fuel.
So for context, when CinemaSins sinned The Last Jedi, they sinned it for using the running out of fuel thing as a plot point.
Can we jump to light speed?
We have enough fuel resources for just one jump.
Fuel? Is this the first mention of the concept of fuel in Star Wars? I sure don't remember Han in the original trilogy ever having to worry about fuel. Certainly not for jumps to light speed. And Rey just took the Falcon supposedly halfway around the universe looking for Luke. But this ship only has enough fuel for one more jump? Jesus.
I'll talk more about it when I eventually send that video, but for now, all I'll say is that fuel has always been in Star Wars. There's no reason to send it for being here now.
Here they come! Get down to the couplers!
What the hell? There was no part of the plan that Beckett laid out earlier that involved getting shot at by armed guards.
What? You really think they didn't expect resistance? Are you freaking serious?
Chewie!
Off. I looked it up. Chewie's 7'3" and almost 112 kilograms, which is Canadian for 250 pounds. Ain't no way Han is pulling him back on the train with one f***ing hand.
Really? So you Googled that, but literally nothing else? Why do you do your research sometimes, but not others? I would have let this sin slide if you weren't so inconsistent about this.
The enemy soldiers have magnetic boots, which, given the amount of raw planning Woody and company did, is something the heist crew should all be wearing as well, right?
Maybe they couldn't get any, who knows? And they were able to get this mission sort of done without them.
On his first heist, Han is given an opportunity to prove his piloting skills. What are the f***ing odds?
Never tell me the odds.
She just killed herself so the score could carry on. For money. For her husband and his crew. She didn't think her life was worth more than a score. Like, everyone in the crew would rather have her live and they go on for another score down the road. But not her. It's not like her death is for the greater good or anything. This is an attempt to steal for profit. I'm sorry, this death has no emotional weight for me because it makes no logical sense.
Actually, it does make sense. You just aren't paying attention. Surprise, surprise. They aren't stealing the coaxium for profit. They're stealing it to give to Crimson Dawn. When Han drops it later, Beckett says he shouldn't have done that because then Crimson Dawn would hunt them for failing to complete the mission. Val is sacrificing herself so they can finish the heist and save her husband.
This movie suffers from a common cinema affliction these days, last-second-itis, as though every bomb exploding, train derailing, airplane crashing, vehicle skidding toward a cliff, as though all that utterly requires being pushed to the very last second, which it does not. Tension does not require razor-edge margins of victory. Galaxy Quest made fun of this garbage writing almost 20 years ago. Tin Cup-proof tense finales don't even require protagonist victory, as though them pulling up the train car 200 yards sooner and us watching the rest of the cars fall to their deaths wouldn't have been as thrilling or interesting.
Am I the only one who's noticed that Jeremy has referenced Galaxy Quest a lot? Like, at this point, I need to create a new cliche. Also, you said all of that and somehow didn't realize why lots of films do this, because it's exciting. Like, why are the Mission Impossible movies so popular? They do this stuff all the time, but it's always thrilling. If movies did what you're suggesting, it wouldn't be as fun. This is like sitting movies for having opening logos. It's standard practice. Oh, wait.
We were hired by Crimson Dawn.
Isn't that the group that Hans Gruber read about in Time magazine?
Arbitrary movie reference aside, this is the scene I was talking about that confirms they weren't stealing the coaxium for themselves. So why aren't you realizing your mistake and going back to delete that previous sin?
For me, it's worth the risk. How about you?
This is the quickest I've seen a civilian fully commit to a life of crime since the Amazing Yen in Ocean's 11.
It's not just that he's accepting this life of crime, it's also that he wants to make up for Val and Rio's deaths.
In this movie's version of a rich crime lord's space yacht penthouse, we have a singer with a Bane pacifier and half a Shazam-themed Lazy Susan on her head, beside one of the more disgusting Ripley clone fails from Alien Resurrection, plus thousands of sequins.
Jeremy points things out on the screen cliche.
Paul Bettany, now having appeared in Star Wars and Marvel movies, is hereby literally 30% owned by Disney.
Isn't this the same movie with Jon Favreau, the guy who directed 2 Marvel movies and starred as a supporting character in those films? And Favreau also directed the live-action Jungle Book and Lion King remakes, and while you were making this video, he was working on The Mandalorian. I'm just saying, this joke would have worked better with him.
What are you doing here?
I work here.
As I've said before, space is really, really big. So what are the odds Han and Kira find each other on this f***ing yacht? Please, someone with an advanced mathematics degree, show me what the actual f***ing odds are of this happening. And if you come back with an interstellar type love answer, I will f***ing scream at you.
I was going to say the Force works in mysterious ways again, but didn't the movie already set this up by mentioning that they could be captured by Crimson Dawn after escaping Corellia? And didn't you send that scene?
Well, that is good news because you're going with him.
This is weird. Suddenly he doesn't trust someone. So he sends Khaleesi on the mission even though he also doesn't fully trust her? What the f***?
He does, though. Kira has done tons of work for this guy, and after Beckett failed to deliver the coaxium the first time, he wants to make sure he delivers it this time. I mean, he is working for a Sith Lord, so he knows the punishment if he fails.
I know a guy, and I know just where to find him.
Boy, this is some geographical oddity, isn't it? Not only did the heist occur on Vandor 1, and Voss decided to bring his yacht to that planet, there's also a very famous smuggler with an incredibly fast ship on this same planet, within walking distance.
Okay, I'll give you Lando just happening to be on the same planet, but why is it a coincidence for Voss to be here? Wouldn't it make sense to rendezvous here after they steal the coaxium? This planet has no imperial jurisdiction, so it's not like there's any risk of being caught doing shady business.
Charisma, not to mention his prodigious.
I get it.
Is that a cock joke thrown in the middle of a Star Wars movie? Because I think that was a cock joke thrown in the middle of a Star Wars movie.
And yet you said this over a Star Wars movie.
I don't need this to remember you by.
Because we already have a creepy romantic connection that won't be spoken of aloud until you're old enough for me to see your Jabor snippet, if you know what I mean. Wink.
The seat taken?
Nobody's in the seat, then it ain't taken, friend.
Wow, this might apply for a poker game. Or at least this poker game. But as a general life rule, this is some terrible f***ing advice. Try this empty seats are claimable bullshit with the director's chair on a movie set. Or at the Masters. Or in Buckingham f***ing Palace.
How many times am I gonna have to say you answered yourself? You just said this is a rule that can apply for poker games.
Also, movie takes nearly an hour to Lando, and that's definitely a sin.
This movie is called Solo, not Calrissian. Actually, that sounds really cool. Can we get a Lando movie with Donald Glover, please? I'd rather have that instead of that weird Dawn of the Jedi film that James Mangold is directing.
Anything, Han? It's Han, but That's okay.
This attempt to retcon Billy D. Williams' odd pronunciation of the name in the original trilogy makes me super angry. Not everything we wondered about needs a f***ing explanation.
Oh, come on. I would have removed a sin for addressing that.
Oh, great hand.
Way too much footage of this alien poker game that ultimately means nothing since no one knows how it's played.
And I'm calling with what? My ship. Against your ship.
Yeah, but that's not how calling works. Han put his chips into the pot, which was on top of the $2,000 bet. So if Lando calls with his ship, it's to cover the chips that are on the table.
These two sins are in the same video. You just said you don't know how this game works, and then make claims like this as if you know Sabac's rules.
I'm gonna flip your switch! Good luck finding it!
Is that a G-spot joke thrown in the middle of a Star Wars movie? Because I think that was a G-spot joke thrown in the middle of a Star Wars movie.
And yet you said this over a Star Wars movie.
Movie misses its chance to insert the lightsaber switching noise in this scene.
I actually would have a memory wiped. But she's got the best damn navigational database in the galaxy.
Seems like the Star Wars movies are f***ing littered with people that are the best damn something in the galaxy.
That makes sense to me. I feel like lots of people would say that, even if it's not true.
We've attached the homing beacon. They won't elude us now.
Also, how did Enfys know they were going out to get more coaxium? It's not like she was in the meeting with Voss. And even if she saw Han and Lando together, there's no way she'd know for sure what they were up to.
Maybe they had a communicator in Voss's office to help them listen to what their plan was. That's happened a lot in Star Wars.
While you guys tear up or get horny watching him passionately kiss some not Princess Leia woman, I'd like to point out a more important issue.
Next.
We got a good thing going here. Me, you, Chewie.
Yeah.
Right? The makings of a solid crew.
You just had 2 other crew members killed in a failed heist, asshole.
He's just saying this to keep Han away from Kira. He's essentially teaching him a lesson about not trusting people.
Assume everyone will betray you and you will never be disappointed.
Jesus Christ, can Beckett telegraph he's gonna eventually turn on Han any harder during this trip?
Pretending that you can predict movies again? Or are you just saying that because you've seen this film already, which makes this line make more sense in hindsight?
That Lando has feelings for me. Sometimes I think, maybe.
How would that work?
It works.
No, seriously, how the f*** does that work? God damn it, movie's dropping all kinds of odd sex references here with no follow-up, simply because it thinks the idea is funny. I want to see how that works.
But didn't you sin the movie for supposedly making genital jokes twice? Like, come on, man.
Do not improvise.
Saying this to Han Solo in a movie named after him seems like wasted breath and time for everyone involved, including me.
You're aware this is Han's origin story, right? Meaning this is the first time he's been told something like this? Meaning he's not famous for being an improviser yet? Meaning this sin is dumb?
Freedom.
Sure, the droids are taking off their restraining bolts, whatever the f*** those are, but how would that modify their programming? They're probably grateful, but once they're off, they all turn into William Wallace?
The restraining bolts prevent droids from running off or going against their programmed jobs. This was established in A New Hope when R2 wasn't able to escape the Lars homestead until Luke removed this bolt. And L3 just told the droids to start a robot revolution because that's been her entire personality throughout the film. Honestly, I forgot about this sequence when I said that I'm surprised the droid uprising hasn't happened yet in my Phantom Menace video.
Of course, the alien Vault Guard has an external set of sensitive sex organs in the exact same place as a human.
This is Star Wars. Practically every alien creature is just humans, but with different skin tones and hairstyles. It's been a thing since the very beginning.
Chewbacca ex machina! Chewbacca?
Are you suggesting Chewie coming to the rescue is something that came out of nowhere? In a movie where we know that he has to stay with Han by the end of the film so it lines up with the continuity?
L3 isn't gonna make it, so Lando goes in. And Lando isn't gonna make it, so Han goes in. Then Han isn't gonna make it, so a Wookiee goes in. This is like the Russian nesting dolls of action scene writing. I'm legit surprised Chewie didn't run into trouble and cause Khaleesi to have to come out here too. What? Where the hell have those motherfuckers been this whole time?
Inside the ship. And if your point is that these detonators weren't used before this moment, then I'd point out that characters were still out in the battlefield, as you pointed out in the previous sin.
Could use a co-pilot.
Now watch Chewie die inside for the next few seconds.
Still not as sad as losing all his friends in the span of 3 movies. Hashtag justice for Chewie.
You can't make the Kessel Run in less than 20 parsecs.
Fucking parsecs. Are they distance? Are they time? You don't know. The entire Star Wars canon doesn't know. This whole trial is out of order! Attica! Attica!
Shut up. But to answer your question, a parsec is a unit of distance, and they have to travel through a shortcut in Kessel's Maelstrom, which is something that has never been done before.
Into the Maelstrom.
Can't do it without L3. It's possible we can download her brain into the Falcon's Navicomputer, right?
Could we?
Theoretically.
Well, you got 5 seconds to test that theory, you time-wasting arguing dicks.
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
Also, leave it to Han to basically break the Kessel Run record by cheating. He's the James T. Kirk of this particular Kesselashi Maroon room.
Han Solo has always been the James T. Kirk of Star Wars.
We need to divert auxiliary power to the rear deflector shield.
Because we're now showing a run Han famously bragged about making in record time distance, we're robbed here as viewers of the chance to feel any tension for like more than 10 f***ing minutes. The characters feel tension, but they're paid actors. I know he makes it and does so in record fashion, so all these speed bumps along the way are just red herring.
So you're sinning the movie for not having tension because you know these characters make it out alive. That's pretty inescapable for a prequel. Besides, you can use that same logic for movies that have sequels.
Buckle in now, fans, as we follow Han again while he pilots this ship again, away from a sudden ginormous space alien again.
Sinning a Star Wars movie for being a Star Wars movie.
Now! Now!
This doesn't work? What the hell? I had a raging sin boner, and now the movie subverted it by Oh, that's the stuff. This works.
Jeremy says boner.
Okay, Nest and her crew end up being the seeds of the rebellion, which is a cool twist and all, but what was with all that threatening earlier in the movie? They've literally tried to kill Beckett before, and did kill Rhea, but now that Beckett has the coaxium, we're just gonna have a powwow? Really seems like they shoehorned this rebel storyline in here hard.
To be fair, Nest can't control every person. She probably didn't want Rio dead, and technically she didn't try to kill Beckett. In fact, if you watch that scene back, you would have seen her cut his weapon instead of his body, and then just toss him aside instead of off the train. And I don't think trying to talk to them during a heist would have been a great idea. There was resistance around them, so they just wanted to get out as quickly as possible. Now is a better time to reveal themselves.
Not this time. I'm leaving.
Hang on, is he pretending to run? Like, without the prophets or the coaxium? How the f*** would Han actually believe this?
Beckett doesn't want to get the coaxium to Nest, while Han does. He knows there's no talking him out of it, so might as well give up. He also didn't think Han would pay enough attention to notice he was lying.
I don't know everything.
No, just a bit more than you.
It's not like Han is just missing small signals of pending betrayal and scum and villainy. This is right in his face.
Han was able to predict Beckett's betrayal, but he doesn't want to believe Kira would do the same. He's loved her for a long time and even tried to find her for 3 years.
Oh, I'm talking about my other associate. Can you come in and join us, please?
Dum dum dum! I mean, who the f*** else was it gonna be?
You haven't been paying attention to this film. I seriously doubt you saw this coming.
Go, I'm right behind you.
Even if Han weren't clouded by his boner, shouldn't he get a few more details?
Jeremy says boner.
Oh no, it's Darth Maul! And between him, the Force Ghosts, and Leia's Space Odyssey and Last Jedi, there goes my ability to get it up for any major character's death in this franchise.
That's not a sin for Solo. That's a sin for Clone Wars for bringing him back. And even though I liked what they did with Maul in that show, I can't deny that started the whole trend of bringing characters back that still happens to this day. I mean, we just had Asajj Ventress come back even though she died in a canon book. And don't even get me started on somehow Palpatine returned.
Kira, you and I will be working much more closely from now on.
I don't know about that, dude. Did you see the box office numbers for this thing?
Well, that didn't age well.
Beckett said he heard about this very big gangster putting together a job.
God damn it, we're cramming Jabba into this story too? Everything important in Han's life happened within a week.
Yep, I agree. I actually enjoy this movie for what it is, but that's for sure my biggest problem.